knew there was a storm coming, and we thought we'd be here a little extended, but not for 5 days.
I could literally look out of my office and see to one left-hand side of the view from my window the storm overtaking the south towns, and on the right-hand side of the window it was complete sunshine.
Where we work, we can't really see outside, so we really didn't know what was going on until we went to Tim Hortons and looked out the main windows, and we were like, oh yeah, we're not gonna go home today.
I worked at Mercy Hospital during the blizzard of '77, and to me this was a bigger deal. I mean, it was a lot more people, lots more.
We tried staying ahead of the game. Just the game kept on snowing. The snow kept on coming, and coming, and coming.
The storm has also taken a toll on some local hospitals. At Mercy Hospital in South Buffalo, the nurses have been working round the clock. News 4's Brittany Smallwood is live tonight with more. Brittany?
One of the critical care nurses we spoke to, she said she's been working around the clock. She said originally it was a little hectic at first, but all of the teams began to work together. As of Monday and Tuesday, they had about 150 personnel working. They said they had enough staff, but they needed reinforcements because people had worked doubles and triples. And we spoke to one of the critical care nurses and asked her why she decided to stay since Monday.
Well, the first thing would be, taking care of the patients, but just the staff has been really actually an inspiration. People have walked in for miles to come help us out.
And the reinforcements, they said that second round, it's on its way tomorrow morning. Reporting live, Brittany Smallwood, News 4.
When I saw the amount of snow that was there by the emergency department, it reached up to the roof. I just said, oh, this is something different than we're going to have to deal with.
People were out there, they're feeling like they might go into labor. What do they do? So I did a lot of phone triage in the first few days of trying to prepare people for how to get help. One of our patients was the mom that ended up having her baby at the fire hall.
A woman who went into labor yesterday and couldn't make it to the hospital in time was still able to safely deliver her baby during the storm. News 4's Rich Newberg spoke with the family today.
Meet baby Lucy Grace, as calm and peaceful as a summer's day. But she was born at the height of the monster storm that swept into South Buffalo and made it impossible for Bethany and Jared Honacki to get to Mercy Hospital after Bethany went into labor. Desperate for help, Jared happened to run into a Buffalo fire lieutenant not far from the Honacki home.
My wife's in labor. Do you got any bright ideas on how to get him to the hospital? And he's like, we got a situation here.
Denise Perry happened to be stranded in her car nearby when firefighters knocked on her window after learning she was a nurse.
What kind of nurse do you need? And they said that her contractions were 4 minutes apart, and I said, I'm a labor nurse.
But there was just no getting to Mercy Hospital. The firehouse would have to serve as a birthing room.
Denise helped me get in the right position, and 2 pushes, and out she came.
But before Lucy Grace entered the world, another stranded nurse, Stacy Braymiller, had also been recruited by Buffalo firefighters. She happened to be a maternity nurse.
When the baby came, I just made sure the baby was safe and breathing, and she was wonderful.
They didn't act freaked out or anything. They just said, we got this, you'll be okay.
But Denise was our first angel, really, that God put right where we needed it to be.
Lucy Grace, a name so appropriate, say Mom and Dad.
Lucy means light or illumination, and so it's kind of like grace illuminated, which really does capture, I think, how she came into the world.
Rich Newberg, News 4 at 10.
Heidi Kirsch and her staff out there and the ED docs were just spectacular. Given the burden of the patients that they had and the numbers of people that they were maintaining.
We were getting a tremendous amount of ambulances, and what was happening is that the ambulances couldn't get to Mercy Hospital. So every single patient that was in the South Towns had to come to the MAC.
All the nurses, the EMTs, my manager was on the floor, and she just said, start doing triages, and everybody here, the patients were very, very sick. There was very high acuity, and I feel like everybody here was really pitching in, and good teamwork, and we did it, and I feel we did a great job.
One of my experiences was we did get a trauma victim, and he was a 17-year-old male who had fallen off of a roof. So we had to immediately fly him out. Unfortunately, the snow there was so much snow in the parking lot that we couldn't land the helicopter in the parking lot, and so we closed Southwestern Boulevard off. And as the helicopter was trying to land, and this was probably 7 o'clock at night, so it was dark, and it was quite pretty, to tell you the truth, because when the helicopters was coming down, the snow was blowing around, the lights, but they couldn't land on Southwestern Boulevard because the banks of the snow were so high that the propellers were going to hit, so they had to take off again and land over by the stadium in their parking lot, and Rural Metro transported him.
We had critically sick patients, unresponsive patients, septic with MI. We did everything we could here.
Everybody pitched in, doing feeding and helping people and getting them back to the floors. That building, I think, was truly in a crisis when it came to personnel, but everyone stayed positive and they just kept doing what they needed to do.
It was an amazing time. I'll never forget that. You know, in my life, we're looking at those front doors and the snow was as tall as I was. And it was scary, it really was.
Apartments that are attached to our building, a number of the ladies that live over there came over here starting on Tuesday morning and helped us cook and clean and entertain and everything for the residents. So they were a blessing.
Not only, CJ in the hospital kept in touch with me all the time to see if there was anything we needed, but from the corporate communication center at the EOC, they were terrific in getting us staff here, and they knew that our need was so great for staff that they really bumped us up on the priority list to get people here, and that was really we really did feel so supported.
We actually got to and brought in over 265 people, and we had an assembly line out the door, including Joe McDonnell, tossing linens to each other to get them into SUVs and pickup trucks so that we can get clean linens into Mercy Hospital specifically.
The building allowed really kind of a lot of the key people to be in one location, and we had the space, a dock here, which we could kind of use this as a central command location.
I was able to get out of my driveway on Tuesday evening after the storm hit, but I was unable to make it to the hospital. So the way I helped was to drive supplies and food and nurses and patients back and forth from our Mercy Ambulatory Care Center out in Orchard Park. The first night I was out there, I delivered food from Tops. I think I took 2 nurses to the hospital, and I took 3 or 4 patients home. Was out driving in my vehicle until about 2 in the morning.
They came in with deodorant and razors. I mean, people were looking for razors like you wouldn't believe, whether you're a man or woman, after being here 3 days. So that was wonderful and a real pleasure.
All of the toiletries and what have you on carts and wheeled them down the hallways, and they were met with applause on every single solitary unit, everybody taking what they needed.
In some instances, what we were doing is delivering these drugs to the local fire halls, and then the fire departments were actually taking them in by sled to the patient's home so that they would get their medications.
Dietary coming in to cook 3 meals a day, not only for the staff, for the patients, but for the staff as well. The Tim Hortons crew, the girl from Subway who worked 18 hours and kept Subway open. All the people that thought about others before themselves really showed what a family we are in this building and how we care about everybody that comes through our door.
The people that were in the building, I would say close to 1,500 meals each period, so we did that 3 times a day. Yeah, we did that. It was a lot. It was a lot of stuff.
We unfortunately had some hospital staff turned away at these checkpoints by police because they weren't a doctor or a nurse. while they're still essential personnel because we can't do our job without them in here doing their job.
We're a staff of 104 people and we had 14 throughout the 5 days.
Mainly what the environmental service focuses in on is infection control and just making sure that the entire hospital is clean.
We are the front line of infection control. We not only took care of a pretty full house of patients, but also we took care of the creature comforts for finding places for people to sleep, making sure they're on fresh linen, fresh supplies, finding razors and soap and toothbrushes and toothpaste, getting them to the right people that needed to crash a little bit and then freshen up.
Home care has about 2,300 patients, and there was one patient they couldn't get to for 3 days, but the snow was 7 feet deep at the street, and it hadn't been plowed in 5 days. Went onto Route 20 and stopped the high loader. They plowed the street for us. After they plowed, I turned around and a National Guard Hummer just showed up and asked what we were doing, and I asked them if they could possibly take our nurses back to the patient's home. She hasn't been seen in 3 days. And she opened the garage door and looked at the nurses. She was in tears and said, I can't believe you made it here. So the patient did fine. She had her nursing visit, and like we do at Catholic Health, we will see our patients no matter when and how. We have a commitment to them.
We had a patient that needed a PT-INR, and we even called a facility that we're affiliated with and asked them if we could borrow their PT-INR machine. And our nurse walked there, got the machine, and then walked to the patient.
An old gentleman in a wheelchair crying out, water, water, I want water. And I consulted the nurse and she said, he's really not allowed to have water. She said, but he could have ice chips. Ice chips. I ran and got the ice chips and brought them to him so that he would have some comfort.
Cass Creek normally flows at about 2.5 feet. It starts to flood at 10 feet. And it got to 12 feet.
I think the funniest phone call I got was from CJ kind of after the storm, and I thought it was all over. He asked me at 11:30, I think it was on Saturday night, for 3 pallets of sandbags.
Luckily the weather, believe it or not, cooperated with us, and the melting didn't occur as quickly and the rains didn't occur as quickly.
That's part of our responsibility. We are always prepared.
The thing I'm most proud of, we kept them all safe. We kept our patients safe, we kept our staff safe, and we kept the community safe.
There was incredible leadership, starting with the Catholic Health Administration at their command center downtown, as well as the Mercy Hospital Administration with CJ and Dr. Gabriel.
This was definitely the worst of the worst as far as the weather goes, but the team that we have here at Mercy, the command center team, the nurses that were stuck here for 3, 4, 5 days, we worked well together as a team and we got through it.
Staff that was here for, longer than I was here, really, I was really impressed with their dedication and how they took care of patients.
For the amount of snow and devastation we had, the hospital was wonderful. They responded with open arms to the public, neighborhoods.
They were so great, and I felt kind of privileged to actually be a part of that team. So
the unity of everybody, it was just great to see it, and I got to wear scrubs.
I'm glad it's over. I hope we don't get another one, but I guess that's not going to happen. That's Buffalo.
I think Catholic Health was at its best when we had the call to action as a result of the surprise snowstorm. If you think about the way we look at things at Catholic Health, sometimes we talk about the people, the process, and the technology. Our people were spectacular. We had a significant number of our executives that were snowed in, and it was very great to see that the next person in line stood up, next man and women up to help take control of their processes. So our people did wonderful from that perspective. A lot of flexibility, a lot of thinking outside of the box. But we talk about the processes and our disaster planning processes that we practiced throughout the year over the years here at Catholic Health created the basic framework for us to be able to respond and adapt to the challenges that the snowstorm presented. And the last thing is the technology. And while a lot of people may not think about a building being the technology, the Administrative Regional Training Center created a unique capability that we didn't have in the past to improve both logistics and communication to support all of our ministries that were more significantly and directly impacted. But at the end of the day, we continue to do what Catholic Health has always meant to do in its promises: deliver quality care, patient-centered care, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And I thank you for all your efforts and commitment.